Preparing to live stream the meeting. Fingers crossed.
It says it will begin in 3 minutes and 42 seconds.
What? It says please restart your computer.
Why is it saying that?
Audio renderer error. Please restart your computer. I don't know what that means. I don't know what to do.
So just start talking. You're good.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see me? Okay. Then I just can't see myself, and that's fine. Hi, everyone. If anyone's out there, I don't know. I am working really hard to, sorry, somebody trying to call me. I am working really hard to make this work. We are working really hard. This has been a group effort, and I still don't know if I'm assuming you can see me. Okay, Brooke's going, yes, you can see me. I can't see myself. So, oh, see and sound are good. Okay, go Giraffe. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello to everybody. Christina is saying hello. Christina, I just want you to know that I'm looking at my computer. I'm talking to you guys through my computer this time, and I see nothing except the thing that says audio renderer error. Please restart your computer. So just so you know for the future, fix it. Thanks. Just kidding. Guys, I'm so glad you're here. I have my earphones in, and hopefully they will work later on when I welcome our special guest. We're actually doing something different. We have a Zoom account, and we have an account that allows us to live stream to YouTube. So right now we are live streaming to YouTube, and in a little while, I'm going to invite a special guest, Alden O'Brien, on to share the screen with me, and we will be talking. And hopefully when we do, I will hear her in my headset. But I have no idea if I will or not. So we'll see how this goes. We may have to have Brooke as an interpreter, right, Brooke? So I hope everyone has been sewing. I hope you're all healthy and staying active. As you can see, in fact, I'm going to take these out till we need them. As you can see, I am wearing my headscarf after watching the tutorial, and I love it. Being a child of the 60s and 70s, this suits me. And Brooke, who is probably not going to try and come around because it's kind of dangerous here right now with a lot of equipment. She is also wearing one, which is really cool. In fact, okay, she's going to try. Great. She is wearing one of our little special handkerchiefs. This one did not make it to the video. You'll have to stoop down, like, I'll get out of the way. So she is wearing one from the, okay, she's messing with my computer. I don't know. Anyway, she's wearing one that is from the few special handkerchiefs that we have now in the site as time traveling handkerchiefs or scarves. These were ones I actually had this great idea that I was going to do like a spin-off business at one point in time, because I have so many things I get inspired by, and I had worked with some other designs and other people and got all excited about these, and then just ran out of energy and time. So these 3 scarves designs are named for my grandmother and my great-grandmother, because that's who my little business was going to be called by them, Adelie Elizabeth. Anyway, I decided they had sat in the box long enough and it was time to bring them out. And this was the perfect time to bring them out. And from the reaction I've gotten from people, I guess it was the best time to bring them out because you guys like them. So I'm excited, which means I might do more time traveling stuff in the future, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But I did want to talk to you about a few things. Heidi Jill Prices. I'm not even sure how I eventually got here. You got there, you're here, you're seeing us. I did want to talk to you guys about sew alongs. So I know a lot of you have finished all 3 of your projects. Some of you are just starting your projects. In fact, if you're just finding us for the first time, I'm Angela of Burnley and Trowbridge, and the young lady you saw a few minutes ago is Brooke of Burnley and Trowbridge. And these sew alongs were something that we decided to do when things went crazy in the world. And with our wonderful, talented Christina, who I think is on here somewhere, who did all of the filming and did all of the production work, we created these 3 sew alongs. And they've been loads of fun. And I think you guys have had loads of fun because we have. I know we have. So if you're just getting started, it's fine. Those sew alongs are there. They're not something that's live and go away. They stay. And even our lives stay up on our YouTube channel. So share it. Next week, we'll be rolling out shifts. We talked about it last week, and we have put the information up on our website. There is a list that you can go to tell you what you will need as far as fabric and notions, etc. Do not feel obligated to buy what we show you. Stash bust. If you've got nothing but a piece of cotton, go ahead and use it. You know, again, the point is to go through the project, to enjoy the process, and to learn. So we do have 3 linens that we can recommend if you do want to buy linen. We put all 3 up. We have our medium linen, which is a real sturdy linen, and you find later shifts made out of this. Well, I have one on the back table here that is actually a 20th century shift from a nunnery in France, and it's made out of this heavy linen. But you do find these nice heavy linens in shirts, etc. Not so much in shifts, but sometimes because these are hard wearing shifts, and they're not going to survive in collections. They're going to be used up. In fact, shifts for the most part are used up. We recommend that if you're going to be doing a lot of heavy duty working and you're going to really, abuse your shift, that might be a suggestion. For most of us, our regular shirt shift linen is perfect. It's lightweight. It's not sheer, it's semi-sheer, and once it's washed, it's not really sheer at all. And that serves really well. It makes a very nice shift. It's a nice linen to work with. And if you want a fine shift, a very fine shift, then we recommend our cambric, which we've also suggested to you for caps. And this is it is semi-sheer. You can see it on our website, but it makes up a very light shift that is nice to wear, like, for example, under a silk ball gown. So those are the linens. And then we ask that you pick your thread accordingly. And pretty much the 60/2 or the 80/3 is a pretty standard that you can use. That's kind of my multi-purpose linen that works for a lot of things. There's also, some of you may ask about the rare like runaway ad or something that you might see for half bleached or unbleached or brown linen shifts. Yes, they existed. They tend to be for the very lowest end of the spectrum. But that's something you can consider depending on if you're doing a first person and you want to, do it. You want to have a unbleached shift, by all means. I would suggest our lightweight natural if you go that route. You can also consider using our heavier linen in the body and then choosing the lighter linen in your sleeves, which you do see as well, because the body of your shift gets a lot more wear than the sleeves do, except for the cuffs, which can get a lot of. Our shift is not going to have cuffs. Some of you have asked about that. We are doing the plain shift with a straight sleeve from Diderot. We felt that this was an appropriate shift for people to make on this journey of sewing, rather than throwing you to the lions and making you do all kinds of fancy sewing in the very beginning. It's not fancy so much as it's a little more intricate. So we thought that would be something that all of you could tackle. The other thing about shifts is you're going to be sewing a lot. It is a time consuming project. There's a lot of sewing to do it all by hand, which is what we're hoping you will do. But it is going to up your game. By the time you get done making this shift, you're going to look at your beginning stitches and your end stitches, and you're going to see a marked improvement. So we hope that will encourage you to do it. I've got a little cheat sheet again. You know me, can't remember.
May I
Yep,
may I say something for a moment?
sure.
I asked people what linens they were choosing,
Mhm.
and they've chimed in with some of the lightweight linen, or like the cambric for
Yep.
summertime, and the shirt shift for winter.
Okay.
A lot of different people are choosing the cambric or the shirt shift.
Okay.
So
So that's great.
even Melissa Mead will be joining in.
Yay, Melissa. Melissa is, we've mentioned before, is another one of our workshop not participant. Well, she is a participant many times, but she's also now a presenter for us. Yeah.
Another question is, what makes a thread 60/2 or 80/3?
Yep. Great question. The first number is the size of the thread. The second number is the number of plies. So the 80/3 is kind of equivalent to the 60/2 as far as what you see in the diameter of it when you look at it. But for the 80/3, it's a finer thread, it's a finer yarn, but it's 3-plied. The 60/2 is a slightly heavier yarn and 2-plied. And hopefully you guys know what plied means. It means, twisted together. Okay. And I would, if you guys are working with the shirt shift linen and you're working with the cambric you might even want to buy for some of your finishing work, some 80/2 or 100/3, and just try it, see how you like it. One thing I would recommend is that you not do really long pieces because it will break. It's a finer thread. But that would be a good thread to use for some of your finish work. What's going on? Oh, they're making a noise. Sorry. And I'm playing with them. I'm playing with my earphones, you guys. I'm sorry. This is so complicated. I have to tell you. I hope you guys have patience with us, with me. It's not anybody else. Everybody else seems to understand. I'm the one that struggles. So what were some of the other, I think a couple of you commented on the little quick story I threw up where my ladies were getting into the big boxes that came in and getting excited about the pretty colored rows of fabric you were seeing coming out of them. Those are all new linens. I was really fortunate to be able to make a good buy, and we have a lot of new linen that'll be going onto the website. Give us time, be patient. We have been busy, and that is thankfully to all of you. We really appreciate it. But there are two things that we have to, we have two things that we have to deal with. One is that because we have to do things a little bit differently, it takes us longer sometimes. And because a lot of you are getting excited about the sew-alongs, which we truly appreciate, we'll get like a cachet of orders all at the same time. So it has made it a little bit difficult for us to get things out in a timely fashion. So be patient with us. Sometimes it'll take us 2 or 3 days to get to your order, but you will get your order. And we hope that you enjoy what you get, and be patient in regards to all of our new product, because it is going to be up. It won't go away overnight, I don't think. We'll see. But we
The
will.
raspberry gauze is almost gone. There's only 5
Oh
yards
my
left.
gosh. Yeah, and that I talked about last week. So there you are. Now, a lot of things I get in limited quantity, and I can't control that. So it is truly a if you see it, get it type of scenario. but I'm always finding new things, you guys. If you miss one, there'll be something else you love next time. So next Friday, I'll share some of those linens with you. We are also, we're just about time. We're going to be introducing, I'm on YouTube and I don't know how to get back. Oh, I know how to get back to my Zoom. I'm going to be introducing a really good friend and curator, Alden O'Brien. She's the chief curator of textiles and fashion at the DAR Museum. And because we've never not even talked about it yet, our new tutorial, because of our new tutorial, I thought, wow, this is a perfect time to bring Alden on and we can have a chat, because truly our journey on doing the true reproduction work. I was doing inspired work and I was taking things from like portraiture and things like that, but I had not been able to lay hands on a antique and be allowed to duplicate it, to actually reproduce it bit by bit until the DAR came along. And Alden was instrumental in that, along with Heidi, who I'm going to be talking to next week on the DAR YouTube. I think it's their YouTube channel. I'll find out and let you guys know. But Alden is the chief curator of textiles and fashion at the Daughters of the American Revolution Museum in Washington, D.C. For those of you who are not familiar with that museum or maybe tuning in from another country, she is also a Regency enthusiast and she has done amazing stuff. She has written, Willow and Thatch just published something that she wrote about Regency fashion, and she's just amazing, and I love her and I love going into the collections. So I am going to try and invite her in and we'll see if that happens. So I'm going to go back to my Zoom. I'm returning to my meeting and she's waiting, so I'm going to admit her. Alden, you're there. Can you hear me?
Might, because it's got some twist in the yarn. So I'm not real sure what it would do if it got like agitated like that. The
I
plain
don't
weave
know what's going on.
much of it.
Hi.
But what
Hi.
just
I am going to get out of I'm going to,
there's a section that says it's like washing in.
I'm going to go back to YouTube. Let me go back to YouTube so I don't hear. Okay. Can you see me, Alden?
I can. Can you see me?
No, I cannot. So, but I
Oh.
can hear I can hear the disembodied voice, and that's
Okay.
really good.
Let me
Because
see if I can figure that out.
no. It's okay if I don't
Okay.
see you. What the problem is so far, and this is the non-techie person saying this, if I go over to my Zoom, we
Mhm.
get a feedback and a delay. If I stay
Okay.
off of the Zoom and I just stand here in front of the web camera, it's okay.
Okay.
So Brooke is shaking her head at me. So what's the
I
deal,
can hear
Brooke?
her through here.
Oh, you can't hear it through here. So I'm going to take you off.
I must have been watching your last week thing just now because you were talking about aprons and your new wools.
You were not
Okay.
watching the new. Well, you can watch it and you live when this is over with.
Yes.
So, but anyway, I am so glad that you're here. And even though I
Thank you.
don't see your face, I hear your voice. and
Okay. I hope they can see my face, but I guess it doesn't matter.
they can see your face. I'm getting
Okay.
a thumbs up from Brooke, and I'm
Great.
sure people are going to be asking questions.
Hi,
and all
Brooke.
that stuff. I'm going to consider it like a what do you call it? A podcast. This is like a podcast. And Brooke,
Right.
say hi back. Oh, she can't hear her.
Okay.
So
We are all good. When you speak, they see you. And when Alden speaks, they see her.
oh,
Okay, great.
hooray.
And when I speak, you still don't see me. So everything's right in the world. All right, go for it.
Yay. So we are golden, Alden.
Okay,
So-
great. I am turning off YouTube so I don't get confused.
Okay. So I gave you a great introduction, told them how wonderful you are. Also let them know that you were the chief curator of textiles and fashion at the Daughters of the American Revolution Museum.
Okay.
And I told them that, that the whole research slash moving into reproduction work based on using actual antiques started with the DAR.
Oh,
So, yeah. So we had what I was going to do, and you'll see it, is I was going to share the first two that we did, and then you can talk about them a little bit.
sure.
So and then we'll also talk about the exhibit. I want you to tell them about the exhibit, and we can talk about the
Okay.
book. And I have a copy of the book here.
Great. I
So they
couldn't
can-
find my copy, or else I'd be having that in my hand too.
Right. And I'm waiting on Kara. She's going to send me a new cachet of them. I'm completely out, but I will have them again. But
Okay.
yeah, but now I got to get them up here. All right. So the first two printed ones that we did with the DAR, they were so lovely, and you, Alden, were so lovely, and Heidi was so lovely. Brought out a bunch of their collection, and these two particular ones, and this is the first one.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is the second one.
Yep.
Were two that really appealed to me.
Yeah.
And I thought it was within our ability to reproduce them. The first one was your typical 34, 35-inch approximate square. And the other one was a larger one, which we thought was late, right?
Yep.
Late 18th century. So tell them a little bit about these two. I'll hold them up for a minute.
Well, unfortunately, we don't know a lot about the history of these. Quite often with the DAR collection, we have a family history that comes because so many of our donations come from DAR members. And so these things that they donate often have been saved as, belonging to either just the so-and-so family of such and such a region, or sometimes they'll say, oh, this belonged to a specific person. Then, of course, you have to do the research to make sure that the style of the garment fits with that, and that the history holds up to the research. But in this case, we don't unfortunately have any family information. So we just know what we can see from the fabrics, which is that they're block printed cottons with, I think it's 2 or 3 colors each. I forget exactly. And they could have been done in India. I think it's quite possible both of those were made in Europe, because of course the Indian cottons were so popular that both France and England were scrambling to keep up with the demand and not let the Indian products compete with their local textile industries.
Right.
So, but they're very much in the flavor of Indian block prints. So it's really hard to tell. Often you can look at a print and say, well, it's trying to be Indian, but you really see that European style sneaking in there. Other times it's more convincing. These are quite convincing, which makes me really go back and forth on whether it's Indian or whether it's European.
Right.
But either way, Americans would have had access to those prints. In fact, even when, as I understand it, even when England was, the English were forbidden from importing the Indian printed cottons, the colonies could still access them. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's my understanding.
Right.
of it.
That is correct. That
Yeah.
is
So
correct.
I thought I was safe on that, but I always hedge my bets when I'm around. You've done a lot of research and you're talking to the people there in Williamsburg, and so I'm always afraid that I'm going to trip myself up. Anyway, so these are definitely the kind of thing you could have seen in America. And
Right.
of course, even if you weren't a well-to-do person, I think, kerchiefs and the occasional, ribbon or accessory is where someone of lesser means could have splurged. And so I think whatever your impression, you can probably justify a nice printed cotton kerchief like this.
And I agree with that also too. I remember when we first started on these two, I found a lot of French images that I
Yes.
sent to you.
Mhm.
Yeah. And very much in some of the things that have started to become, and and I have to go back. There's more work to be done when it comes to the research, but looking at if there's any chronological understanding as far as motifs, the
Yeah.
idea of these corner motifs, right?
It
And
would be
then,
great to try to figure that out. And I
yeah,
think that's really going to be elusive because it's so hard to get a firm date on any of them.
right. And it causes you to block it differently. So
Yeah.
it's even technique.
Mhm.
Then I'm wondering if that has some type of bearing on dates.
Yeah.
I know that with some of the things we did, like with, well, this one, which is Mary Deering,
Yep.
her private collection, which thanks to the DAR just led to so many wonderful things for me. That
Oh,
was
I'm so glad.
exciting. Yeah. This one, if you guys can see it, it's real hard to see. This is literally a straight rectangular block,
Mhm.
and it is, the fabric is folded at an angle, triangular, so that the block falls off of it and you get this weird meet up.
Yeah,
So it's not a corner motif, but
right.
yet things like this are so clean and lovely.
Yeah.
And
That's a
they're
good
meant to
point
be
that you
this way.
make. Yeah, that's a good point that you make. I went on a brief textile tour in India, and I spent a couple of days doing workshops of block printing. We went to several different factories where they're still doing the things by hand. And we also got a couple of days of doing it ourselves. And it was fascinating to see the very high tech technique of taking a piece of newspaper and placing it at an angle at that mitered
Mhm.
corner and just
Yep.
putting the block, and then it just ends at that triangle, and
Yep.
then you start up again with the newspaper. But it takes an extra effort to make that corner motif. So that does, so whether that's a chronological thing or whether that's a price point thing, it's a good question. But I do think that these, because we see this kind of thing in a lot of paintings and prints. George Morland did a lot of wonderful paintings and prints of sort of working class farm level people, and you see them wearing some of these patterned kerchiefs in the 1770s and 80s.
Right.
And so, we know that this kind of thing works for the late 18th
Right.
century and into the 19th century.
And recently, I've done some work for Albany Institute, and they
I
had
love that shawl.
yeah, I'm pretty smitten with all of it myself, actually. It's always so exciting to see,
Yeah,
to see the antique come to life again, I guess is really what I like to
yeah.
say.
Well,
But
that's true because Angela, the two originals of our printed scarves, as you
mhm,
know, are quite fragile, and one of
yes,
them, the one that has the red in it that is now being
this one.
reprinted in, yeah, that one, that's now been reprinted in blue and yellow,
Mhm.
which is also gorgeous.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have that
that one,
here.
yep, that one was so fragile we couldn't exhibit it in the exhibit.
Right.
The
But you
other one,
exhibited my reproduction.
we used your reproduction.
Yeah.
What we did is we turned it into a headscarf on a servant in a bedroom.
Yes.
And
And
so
and
that
that
was,
is, and what she's talking about was the exhibit that she mounted called An Agreeable Tyrant. And it was a fantastic exhibit. In
can you
fact,
put
it
that
is,
a little further up so we see more of it? There you go.
see it?
Well, we see, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Fashion after the
Because I
revolution.
can't see what I'm doing.
Thanks. Sorry, we don't, now you can put it down. We want to see the rest of your face. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just so people could recognize the cover if they're
Yeah.
looking for it on
Brooke
your
wants
website.
to, Brooke has some questions for us, I think.
Okay.
So one of the questions is about who did the original designs for all of these ones, that the originals from the 18th century. Like, do we know who was producing them or designing them?
Well, there weren't, I'm not aware of any specific designers per se
No,
that made their name
that we
doing
know.
handkerchiefs. It was such a common accessory. And they were so prolific and so varied that I don't think, like we could say the House of Worth, for fashion much later, but there were no houses per se, right?
Right.
And we do know like some of the silk designer, the silk brocade designer, we know knows
Right.
them, but we
Mhm.
don't know that for
Handkerchiefs were just so common. So
I,
very,
I
very
think
common.
you didn't need a really expensive setup to produce
Right.
those blocks, those printing blocks. And so whether you were in India or France or England, it was pretty easy to borrow these motifs from each other's designs. I wonder whether possibly in the Oberkampf factory in Jouy,
Mhm.
possibly there are records in their archives of specific textile designers, but you know, in general, basically not. These are just sort of standard
Right.
block printed designs that everyone's kind of borrowing from each
But
other and riffing off of each other.
yeah, but that means we need a trip, right, Alden?
I think we need a trip, Angela.
We need a trip. Yes.
Another question is what the approximate dates were for the different kerchiefs.
Okay, so there, all of the information is on our website.
And make
But-
sure you hold them up higher so people
Oh,
can see them up to
okay.
your eyeballs.
Up to my eyeballs. Here I am. This
Look
is
at
the
those
new
beautiful
Brilliant.
corner motifs.
Yeah.
Those
And
corner motifs just make them.
Yes, this one, I was going to say this one is recolored, and this decision was made based on looking at, as you say, Jouy, looking at the French handkerchiefs,
Yeah.
that there's a fairly large cachet of them. I keep holding it down. A fairly large cachet of them in France that are available to look at. And I would love to be able to look at the whole collection. Here's the other in person. But looking at all those motifs, you see certain colors
Yeah.
that are real prolific. One of the things that we did, this one, going back, this one, I talked to the powers that be at the museum, and the collective decision was made based on me being excited about it to to recolor this large one that I just showed you in the colors of Provence. This was really popular at the very end of the 18th century and on into the early 19th century, this combination of red and blue and a brown tone. And
Mhm.
so we went back and cut a couple of new blocks to do the resist part, but we did this in those colorings, but the same motif. And it
I
gives
just like, while you're holding this up, Angela, can I just interject? One fun thing about the original of this is
Mhm.
that one of those corners has been rounded and turned over and given a hem roll so that it has a round edge, which is quite fun. So that when you fold it over, if you want to show, you know, the original does have this rounded edge that whoever the owner was, decided to do that to give it a slightly different effect. So that's one little personalized thing you could do with it.
And they may very well have done that so that you would see a double layer of the motif if it was
Maybe
worn
so. Mhm.
around the neck.
Maybe so.
This larger one as well, at the end of the 18th century, could have been worn crossed over and tucked in or tied behind. Could have been worn more as a shawl. It is large. It's about 45, 48 inches square. But
Yeah, if
both of these, didn't we feel comfortable saying like last quarter on into
last quarter, I think
maybe
especially
early
into the
19th?
80s, but no reason to say you couldn't wear it for the 70s. Those prints were certainly around. And when I dressed the mannequin with that larger shawl, I just draped it on her as if it were just a shawl folded into a triangle. But if I had dressed it on a late 1780s, early 1790s mannequin, I could also have done it in one of those poofy sort of powder pigeon crisscross treatments and tying around in the
Exactly.
back,
Yep.
because it's pretty much big enough to do that, I think. And
Right.
that would be a nice alternate look to use.
And Brooke has some questions.
Another question is, why are some of these scarves more rectangular than perfectly square? Or are they meant to be perfectly square and they occasionally get...
They occasionally get rectangular, and the struggle is real, but the honest truth is the originals are not completely square. because when you look at the way they're manufacturing the handkerchief, they've got the width of their textile, which creates two sides, and then they are printing over and over and over again. So they are cutting and then hemming two edges. So Albany is a good example, and maybe you can remind me because it's been so long since I've looked at them, Alden, your two as well. Albany's, all of them had two non-hemmed edges. In other words, two selvage edges and two hemmed edges.
Mhm.
This is really common. And this carries through on into the late 19th.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So they're
Because
running
that's
it
just the
as,
efficient way to make them.
sure. So they're
And
just running
sometimes there's a little
laser textile.
irregularity.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So other questions? Because I was going to show a couple of other things. So another one from the collection, and this one I was super excited about, and Alden, you could speak to this because this has
Oh, yeah.
a little bit of provenance. This is our linen handkerchief. We wove this to the batch as best we could of the original. We color matched it. It is 100% linen, and this is super common. You see these in one of the terms that's used for them is romal, Romal, and they are these woven plaid handkerchiefs, sometimes of linen, sometimes of silk, sometimes of wool and silk, a variety of different fibers, but they're all these nice, what a modern person would call plaid, what an 18th century person would call a check. So talk about this a little bit, Alden.
Well, this is one of the only ones that we have a specific provenance for, but I tend to question the provenance because it associates it with someone in the mid 19th century. And I really think this dates somewhat earlier. I mean, there's no reason you couldn't have a check like this continue, but it's really much more typical of the 18th and early 19th century. So, but the original does have some initials on it, and of someone named Abby Mason. And I believe she's in New England, I forget exactly. So that's kind of fun. And what I love about the Burnley and Trowbridge reproduction is you really got the thread count and the texture and the weight of it. It's just, it's spot on. It's just a dead ringer. So it's really nicely done.
And see me smile. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
We're always really glad when that happens.
Well, and the other thing is with just to go back to the printed one, just very briefly, you did a great job on whatever software you have, because you're so good at that, of taking, there were a lot of areas of our handkerchiefs. You couldn't just take a photograph of those handkerchiefs and reproduce it, because a lot of them had, damage or some loss because of the iron mordant and the dyes. And so you used the best repeats that you could find and the most intact corners, and then you reproduced it on your design. And so it came out beautifully.
Oh, thank you. And you were a big help with that.
Thanks.
With that. Yes, another question.
A really good question is, would both men and women have used these?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We have them listed in our website as neck handkerchiefs, because modern people understand handkerchiefs as something you blow your nose with. But we wanted to use that term because it is correct for the 18th century. But we wanted you to understand that this 36-inch handkerchief was not something you wanted to blow your nose with. So we came up with the term neck handkerchief. But you see these handkerchiefs being worn by men and women. The men are wearing, my battery is running low. Do I have a plug-in for this? It's unplugged. Hold on, you guys. Want to make sure. I'm going to close this thing that just came up, and I'm being plugged back in. Okay, much better. All right, we won't run out of juice here. But what was I saying? Anyway, men and women, absolutely. You see women wearing them around the neck. You see women of color wearing them on the head and around the neck. You see men wearing them around the neck, and you see men carrying them as well. And what is interesting, if you look at a fun thing to do is spot the handkerchief. A good place to go is start with our Pinterest board for handkerchiefs, and you will see loads and loads of art with handkerchiefs in it. And you'll find them being used by men as being carried in the pocket, but they're large, like a snuff handkerchief typically is what they were. So they are the size of something you could put around your neck as well. I don't see necessarily it being distinguished like in sales ads as saying, okay, I've got neck handkerchiefs, snuff handkerchiefs, pocket handkerchiefs. It just says handkerchiefs. So we don't know. We're not sure. But yes, you see them being worn by men and women, definitely.
In regards to the Rommel, the blue and white, would that be worn in the 1770s? Like, what's the earliest you could wear that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like how-
definitely the 70s. How early? I would say as early as the 50s, maybe earlier. I can document handkerchiefs to the 50s. In fact, we've reproduced a couple inspired by foundling handkerchiefs where the child was left in a garment that had been made from a handkerchief. In matter of fact, and I got to find it, there is a foundling that was left in a handkerchief that was this handkerchief, literally this handkerchief. And I'll be darned, I've lost it again because my research is a hot mess, but I'll find it again. So yeah, Alden. So let's talk about, well, I'm going to show them real quick this. We recolored this. If you go to the Cooper Hewitt Museum, this is the blue one that you just saw. It's done in 100% wool. If you go to the Cooper Hewitt Museum, they have a collection of Rummels, and they have some that are this red and blue colorway. And I believe the Met, can you refresh my memory, Alden? Do you recall?
I haven't looked at those on the Met. I wasn't aware of those, but I remember you're mentioning them.
Yeah. But
I'll take your word for it because you are so exhaustive. When you research these things, you do not make these things until you have multiple documentation in extant and visual sources.
Right. And yeah, that's how we roll.
That's right. That's
that's
what you get with B&T.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, the red and blue here is your common kind of orangish red, mattery red, and your indigo blue with a white. So we basically took this weave pattern and we introduced it and created a whole different handkerchief with the yarn colors that we used. And this is inspired because I do not have an actual antique that I took this from, other than the fact that it was the blue and white linen antique, but made in wool and made in different colors. So a Rommel, you see wool Rommels. So the last one that there's two things here that I'll show them, but this one, my last pride and joy.
My favorite.
I know, my favorite.
I'm wearing it today.
Huh?
I'm wearing it today. Look, I watched your 10 a.m. tutorial and I copied what Cheney did, and I took the corner motif and I rolled it around at the top. But then instead of doing a bow on top, I brought it back down to the bottom. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
I'll get to see it when I see it on YouTube.
But I forgot you can't see me, but hopefully the others can.
Oh yeah, they can. They can. This was a pride and joy too, because now you can correct me if I'm wrong. I got to hold it up. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Alden, but I feel like I got the textile in this dead on. We had
so
this
dead on. The thread count and the feeling, the texture of it, the hand of it, so dead on.
Thank you.
The softness, it's absolutely one of those Indian cottons. And what I also really have to give you props for is the original has these motifs scattered around the edges, and there's several different ones that repeat in different ways, but most of them have a lot of loss, and they're all this wool chain tambour stitch, but lots of loss. And so I had to spend a while down in storage taking pictures of each and every one so that you could find a composite to design, to show the people who are going to be making this in India exactly how many stitches and exactly the shape of each of these. And of course, because it's hand done, there's going to be a little variation anyway. But because of the losses on the original, that was a little bit of a puzzle piece
It
job
was.
for you, and it came out so beautifully.
Well,
The colors
that's
are
because-
right. It's
That's because of
gorgeous.
you.
Oh,
Because of
well, it's a partnership, and that's why we're
There you
both
go.
here today. It's a great partnership.
Right. And I have to give you guys a little history on this one. The reason she had to do all this is because this is one I looked at, quote, in passing. And then going through all my research, I'm looking at it and I'm looking at them and going, my artisans could do this. I could do this. But I can't get to the DAR. So that's when it became the Alden and Angela show. And Alden had to do all my legwork.
But that's okay, because that's one of the ones where, you know, you came to storage and you said, I'd like to look at X and Y. And I said, well, let me just show you this other little example of Z, because maybe I could interest you in that. And you said, yeah, I don't think I could do that. But I planted the seed and it grew in your mind, and it ended up a
and it
beautiful
worked.
thing. Yep.
It worked. This is the final thing that I'm going to show. And this was reproduction cotton. That this was early on too that we did this. This is reproduced from a child's gown dated to the end of the 18th century. It's a transitional gown. And this pattern, I got so excited when I saw this, because you see this in the last quarter of the 18th century. This whole, the little dot motif, the little sprig. I mean, you see it over and over and over again, and it carries on into the 19th century, right?
It does.
So this one was great. And again, I was very fortunate. I have the most amazing manufacturers. They've been part of my family for a long time now. They've grown their business with us, and they were able to give me a really high quality cotton. I've had people repeatedly say that the quality of the cotton is much better than the ones they get where it's like I guess the quilting cotton that's repro cotton. And they've gone on about how this is so lovely to sew. This is out of stock right now, but you know, if enough people beg me, we'll print it again.
I bought a couple of yards of it when it first came out, and I cut out for myself a bed gown, and I told myself I was going to make it in time to wear to the opening party for Agreeable Tyrant.
That's right.
That was in 2016, and I just recently dug it out. It was packed away with my summer clothes. I just got it out of the storage bin under my bed and looked at it. It's still sitting there with its pins, but I've decided I've brought it downstairs, and I'm going to sit there and sew it in front of the television as my family watches movies at night. So
work on your
that's
hands,
the plan. Maybe one day I'll send you a picture of that, and you can see that.
That would be exciting. I hope you do it. I hope you do it. Well, we are talking about future things with the museum. The DAR has been amazing. Number one, working with everyone there is amazing, but we have such a nice collaboration. We have really consider ourselves fortunate to have access to the collection the way we have, and to have the opportunity to reproduce some of these beautiful antiques. And we are talking about future plans, right, Alden?
Yes, we are.
We have another linen handkerchief that is in the lineup, and as soon as things get to a point where we're allowed to get information again, and either I'll go up there or Alden and I will work through this wonderful technology that we're all using now.
Well, I feel bad because I was supposed to go down to storage and take some of those close-up pictures for you, and it just kind of dropped off my radar, and then before we knew it, we were shut down. So
I know, and that's exactly what happened.
Let it be a lesson to me to seize the day and do it now.
And also Alden has, oh, I also reproduced that little spotted, the red spotted from the surplus gown as well. I forgot about that. And
Which one
it's
is
done in
that?
that real
Oh, the
sheer
red
muslin.
spotted bandana.
Yeah, no, just the red spotted fabric. Remember from the gown that you had that then.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that
that
was the
ended up in
lone,
the
the polka dot, that was the lone dress in the
agree-
exhibit.
and
Yeah,
we now have it right now in a pomona green and an indigo, a medium indigo and a gold spot.
oh, I've seen the
Just so
gold.
Just so people know, there's only a few yards of the blue left, about 8 yards.
Oh no.
The green
Just
is on
enough
the
to do a
last
dress.
piece, and there's a lot of gold left. So go for
Because I
gold.
just reordered that.
Go
yeah.
for gold.
And the gold
Nice.
is amazing.
It is amazing. I
and-
will be
and-
making something out of that.
Right. And you know, there are a few people that have tried doing painting on silk. Why not painting on cotton? That would be really super cool. And then you'd
That would
have
be
gold
very cool.
spots already, right?
Those gold spots would be amazing at a Jane Austen ball.
Uh-huh. With gold trim.
Yeah, if I were pounds lighter, I'd be doing that.
Yeah, well, you and me
Yeah,
both.
well.
did.
I tried Regency a number of years ago, and I saw a photograph of myself and I said, yeah, I'm sticking with the 18th century on the rare occasions that I do anything at all.
Oh, Brooke says she's got more questions.
Well, one question was about the quality of the cotton that you use. Someone was asking it was the same as the other fabrics that you use for your reproduction cottons, like your blue and purple and
mhm.
all the past printed cottons.
Yes.
It's all that high quality
Yes.
cotton.
It's that same cotton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having sewn on a lot of cotton myself for different gowns from lots of different places, whether it is bed linen supply companies or other museums, I find this cotton, I'm a little biased, of course, because I work here, but I definitely like this to sew on the best. My fingers don't hurt. It's not too shrinky. There is definitely a number of comments about how you should just take all their money because they're all ordering and they just finished ordering and now they're ordering again. And
Oh my goodness.
yes.
Oh my
So
goodness.
lots of kerchiefs being bought in fabric, and there's definitely requests for more of this fabric.
That's great. Well,
You know what I'm finding, Angela? I don't know, and I bet other people are too. Stuck at home, although I do have family at home, which is great because normally I live alone and I have both daughters and associated
oh, you're
boyfriends.
just having a party.
I'm just having a party here. I tell you, my birthday's on Sunday and they're planning a wine tasting and a chocolate
Ooh.
cake and we're having a blast. But I admit that I will push shampoo day one day too far. And, putting a little Burnley and Trowbridge kerchief on the head, it makes all the difference. And I come down and each day that I try this trick every, 4 days or 3 or 4 days, my kids say, oh, look at you. Is that a new one? And I'll say, yes, it's from the DAR. Yes, it's from Burnley and Trowbridge.
Well, we love it. And we hope everybody's been practicing their headscarf tying and enjoyed that new video. We are getting close to time, I think, aren't we? Got about 5 more minutes. So let's talk a little bit. We were going to talk about the woven linen one that I want to do.
Great.
Also, we're talking about possibly doing another fabric or two. And I know Alden has one that she's in love with. It's a red roller print that she's keen on. Yeah, and Brooke is standing here making goo eyes at me because red is her favorite color.
Well, and it would be another that you could do in lots of other colors too, because
exactly.
it's
We can do it in other
Yeah.
colorways. So I probably will bend to that one. Our biggest thing is if for those of you who have not bought from us before, when it comes to our reproduction work, this is our handkerchiefs as well as our textiles that are exclusive Burnley and Trowbridge reproductions. We carry them. If it's a reproduction from a museum, we in that museum carrying them, and that's the only places you can get them. 1, 2, we do it in small quantities, and there's a reason for that. 1, I want to be true to the period where they were constantly turning new stuff out. I mean, they were changing designs constantly. You didn't see a design from 1 minute to the next. I mean, it was fast because they were trying to keep up with the consumer fickleness, just like now. So we try not to dump too much out in our little small costuming community. That is the same. Whereas I know that, and it will go unnamed, but some of the larger museums produce thousands and thousands and thousands of yards of the same print. And so from a costuming standpoint, how many of you have done that? Oh my gosh, I just saw myself coming and going at an event. You won't find that as much with us, definitely. So you're going to have limits. There's going to be limits to the amount of textiles that we print and the number of handkerchiefs that we have at any one time. With our fabrics, we typically print 100 meters and then we don't print it again. We might let it rest or we might retire it. So you never know. And that's not to get you to go crazy and like jump on the website and go, oh, I got to have it. I always have new things coming up. So there's lots of new things, lots of wonderful things, and lots of opportunity for new things. Matter of fact, Alden, I am going to be looking at some more Mary stuff and maybe talk
Great.
to them again. So we'll see.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, the one that is upcoming that you wanted to mention is one of the ones that's photographed in the accessories section of the Agreeable Tyrant catalog. It's mostly white, but then it has blue stripes on the borders, which come together to form a corner that has a sort of a plaid effect. So that is something that you see again and again and again and again in the
Yes.
visual literature. So I think that's going to be really, really typical, really good for late 18th, really good for early 19th.
Yeah, and that's the linen one that she's talking about.
Mhm.
Also, I just need to go through your drawers again and
Mhm.
look at the handkerchiefs with new eyes to
Mhm.
see if there's something else that, I look at handkerchiefs every day. I'm doing research all the time. I'm into the spot the handkerchief mentality. So I'm seeing more and more and more. In fact, that's what I was going to say. One of the cool things was when I was in Albany this summer, they had the Schuler girls exhibit, the Schuler sisters exhibit up. And there was, who was it? Abigail? That's who it was. Abigail Adams, the Abigail Adams portrait. What is she sitting there wearing but a
Yeah.
printed handkerchief? And it
That
was funny because there
looks
had
a lot
just,
like ours.
yeah. And there had just been a conversation on social media where people were disputing and telling people they couldn't wear printed handkerchiefs, that only lower classes wore printed handkerchiefs. And I laughed and I said, well, Abigail wouldn't like to hear she's lower class.
That's right.
So, this is the type of thing that it is through all socioeconomic levels.
Mhm.
You see these handkerchiefs. And so it's something that if it works for you, wear it and look and spot the handkerchief. Brooke.
Can you do one last showing of the Adelie
Oh,
Elizabeth
okay.
scarves?
Well, Alden, I want to thank you for
You're
being
very
with
welcome.
me. You can
Thank
stay
you for
on with
having
me.
me.
Yes, I loved having you. I don't know how I'm going to end this YouTube because it's like these screens are so weird. Anyway,
That's okay.
we'll
I
figure it
I
out.
will click out of it and I'll say goodbye. And I look forward to working on the next project as soon as things reopen.
Thank you so much, Alden. We miss
Bye,
you.
my dear. Bye,
And
Brooke.
happy early birthday.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So guys, you said you wanted to see Adelie Elizabeth one more time. So these are named for my grandmother and my mother. Adelie was an amazing, I'll hold them way up. Adelie was an amazing artist. I loved her so much. She died when I was young, but she was also an avid gardener. So I decided that this one needed to be hers. She was a very fashionable. I have photographs of her from the 30s, and she was a beautiful woman and very fashionable. And I think she would have loved this scarf. So this is Adelie. And the next one is Elizabeth, because my mother too, well, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. She was an amazing artist as well. she was also really interested in art history, and she loved the Art Deco period. And this is inspired by that period. And for those of you that aren't aware, there was a big movement during the Art Deco period back to handcrafts, so sculpture and pottery, especially like practical pottery, that kind of thing. Block printing, hand dyeing, hand weaving, embroidery, slow sewing. Everything old is new again. All these things that we're getting into now were things that popped up during the Art Deco period. After, we went through this huge industrial revolution, they got into this, like, we want to do small, beautiful things. So this is block printed. It's done in black and kind of a rust and a yellow and a gray. And a matter of fact, Lauren of American Duchess, this is her all-time favorite handkerchief. I dare you to spot the handkerchief. I think you'll find her in it 50% of the time on social media. And a matter of fact, I think I kind of owe her another one because I believe she's probably worn it out. And then this last one is Jane, and it's the same thing, but it's in colors that my mother would have loved, and her middle name was Jane. So that's why I named it Jane. And it is like a really pretty aqua color with a lavender and a very pale yellowish gold color. So these are it. When you get these, I apologize. They have a slight petroleum smell to them. I don't know why. I've had these for several years and didn't do anything with them, but my manufacturer never really explained to me why. But I will tell you, you can take these by themselves. Only these three, even though we say hand wash, I've washed each of these in the washing machine, and they do okay. So the petroleum smell might be something to do with, the dyes that they used on these particular ones, or how they set the dye, but they are hand blocked. So that is the Adelie Elizabeth collection. Maybe I'll do other things in our little time traveling section as time and inspiration allow. If you have something you love, by all means, send it on to me. I'm always looking for inspiration, and I love everybody, sharing whatever they find out themselves. We hope that you've been enjoying the tutorial. Do us a favor, share it far and wide. We would love for it to go viral. I'm not counting on it, but that would be cool. So share it and let your friends know about us. We are continuing on to process your orders and get you new textiles. And we plan on seeing you next week when we will be rolling out our shift tutorial. Next Friday, we will see you for a live, but we are on the schedule, and Christina is still here. Christina, are we still on the schedule for Wednesday, or is that going to make you insane? Answer. Are we still on the schedule for Wednesday to do the shift? She's going question mark, question mark. She's not answering. I think we are. Yeah, we are. So we will be back. Yes, Wednesday, she said. Okay. Yay, Christina. She's superwoman. We will be back, and please give a round of applause to Christina and to Chini, who were two amazing ladies and did fabulous hair wraps for us, hair ties for us. And I will see you guys next week. And hopefully I am going to be able to get out of this. So I'm going to start pushing buttons. I'm going to put my finger up in front of the camera and try and figure this out. So hugs to all of you. Stay safe, stay well, and keep sewing.